Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Hi everyone. My guest today is a trained lawyer, a four-term Lok Sabha MP, and a man who is known not to mince words. Welcome, Mr. Asaduddin Owaisi.
Thank you.
Hyderabad MP and President of the All India Majlis-e-Ittehad ul-Muslimin. AIMIM has, in the last several years, made forays outside its home state of Telangana into Maharashtra, Bihar, West Bengal with varying degrees of success. And the next destination is Uttar Pradesh. So you have been traveling a lot in Uttar Pradesh. How do you see this election playing out there? What are your plans? How many seats are you fighting there?
So 5 years ago when we contested in Uttar Pradesh in 25 odd seats, at that time we could save our deposit only in 2 assembly constituencies. And our organization was very weak. But in last 3-4 years, our organization has been strengthened. We have done well in the local body municipal elections, Zilla Parishad elections. And so this time around, we hope to do well, and we hope to increase our vote share. We hope to win from Uttar Pradesh in these assembly elections. So as of now, I am still continuing with my travels in Uttar Pradesh, addressing public meetings, meeting my party members, and meeting prospective candidates. So the work continues.
So how many seats are you fighting, sir, and what about alliances?
So as far as the seat is concerned, our state president, Mr. Shaukat Ali, has announced that MIM is preparing to contest 100 assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh. As far as alliances are concerned, only time will tell whether we'll be having an alliance or not. But if we have an alliance, then of course the numbers of seats would be based on what we agree in that particular alliance. But I cannot tell you for sure that whether, as of now, any alliance will happen or not. But we'll have to wait for some more time.
Sir, in UP these days, everybody is going to temples. It's being live telecast, and that's a part of the politics of almost all the political parties there. So do you see now a change in Indian politics where there is soft Hindutva and hard Hindutva? But Hindutva is an integral part of mainstream politics. Do you see that change happening?
See, going to places of religious places is fine, but just before election, making it a media spectacle, optics, that raises questions. But this has been done especially more after 2014 when BJP came into power. And this has been followed in toto or imitated in a complete way, or in fact more than what BJP is doing by other so-called secular parties. So the most unfortunate part is that the fight now is to show to the electorate that who's a bigger Hindu, whether it is Narendra Modi or the ex-leader of that party which claims to be secular. So I don't see any difference between now soft or hard. It is completely Hindutva. And because the whole fight is to show that we are a better and a bigger Hindu than Narendra Modi. The late Arun Jaitley rightly said, when the original is there, why do you require a clone? So I hope these words, these people will understand, but that is not the case so far.
Sir, on that note, sir, what is Jinnah doing in UP politics? Why are we hearing so much about him?
Well, in my opinion, there was no need for the Samajwadi Party president to talk about Mr. Jinnah, and that too on the birthday of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And historically, these people, you have two different personalities having two different leanings ideologically, even in 1930s and 40s. I don't know who advised the Samajwadi Party president, but that was a big blunder on his part, which gave a big handle to BJP to say what they have to say. And because the real issue now in Uttar Pradesh is price rise. The farmers not getting the price for sugarcane. high prices of petrol, diesel, gas cylinder, sarson ka tel, so these are important issues, and unemployment amongst 18 to 24, 25 to 29 in CMI data shows it has increased hugely, it has doubled. So instead of breaking up and talking about these issues, if the opposition parties who want to defeat BJP, you take up such issues, then you are helping BJP in my way, in my opinion.
So earlier this year, we saw those horrific visuals of bodies, floating in the river. Isn't COVID a factor? You didn't mention it in UP. Aren't people going to think about those days when they
I hope that the people of Uttar Pradesh would not forget and forgive a government which had a very callous attitude and which completely abdicated their constitutional responsibility in safeguarding, in providing health, in providing oxygen during the COVID second wave. And I just hope that they remember it, because you as you rightly said, the whole world has seen the dead bodies were floating on Ganga. Dogs were eating corpses which were left over there. People couldn't find wood to perform their last rites. They couldn't find land to bury their near and dear ones. That is a very important issue, and because it exposed this hollow claim of BJP in UP that they have done vikas or development, because nothing of that sort has happened. There are many doctors posts in hundreds lying vacant in community health centers, primary healthcare centers. And in fact, Smriti Irani, as the Minister of Women and Child Welfare, said that out of 9 lakh odd acutely malnourished children, nearly 4 lakh are in UP. These are the important issues which we as opposition parties should keep on talking about it and expose BJP. But at the same time, it is the responsibility of the people of the electorate of UP that they remember these things.
Right. But so, talking of COVID and going away from Uttar Pradesh for a little bit, you did a lot of work in your own constituency to fight vaccine hesitancy, to encourage people to get vaccinated. Tell us a little bit about that.
So not only vaccine hesitancy, but even when during second wave, I remember very clearly that I decided that I would go and get myself tested in a government testing center. And at that time, the then health minister was frantically, was calling me. He said, please don't go. I said, why? Because if you're COVID positive, if the report comes and then there'll be more people will be scared and they will not. I said, no, I'm going there.
Health Minister of Telangana.
Yes. He was a bit reluctant. I said, no, sir, I want to go there. I want to take this fear out. That testing is not wrong, but testing is very important. Because all the health experts, we are following your news items in the print, wherein everyone is talking about that testing is very important, testing. So I got myself tested, and people were quite surprised. But that going over there and my MLAs, my party members going and getting themselves tested was very good. I think it created a very positive messaging was done. And then, of course, during second wave, we could get some oxygen cylinders and provide them free of cost. And at the same time, we had organized this telemedicine. We had helpline numbers. Getting people admitted in government hospitals, finding beds for them. So it was basically, it was a very team effort of all my party members, my well-wishers, friends, and there were other NGOs also. I know who did a tremendous job, and but for their indulgence, their hard work, I don't think so. We would have been able to come out of that huge. It was like existential crisis for all of us. We don't know what's going to happen. But at the same time, we lost many people, many dear, good friends, many family relatives, many people who we know. But it was, it was like a bad memory or bad times. Right. But anyway, I think so. People who worked hard, people who were there, people even now they appreciate. They said, at that time these are the peoples, these organizations were there who were coming to our homes and delivering us oxygen
Even I think
cylinders.
Nishikant Dubey mentioned it that day.
Yeah, I mean, not apart from those laborers which were stuck, who had come to Telangana or Hyderabad from different parts of the state. So we could send them food and make arrangements for them when the train started. But even I must thank the Telangana government that they arranged some financial help to those people, gave them food rations also. But it was a very testing and challenging time for everyone.
Right. So coming back to UP, you tend to fight elections alone. In the past also you have mostly fought alone, and you're often in fact accused of benefiting the BJP. But in a sense, do you find yourself isolated? I mean, nobody wants to ally with you, or is it like you don't want to ally with everybody, others? What?
So in Bihar, we were in alliance with RLSP of Mr. Kushwaha, which had Bahujan Samaj Party and 3-4 parties were there. During 2019 Parliament elections, we had an alliance with Bada Sahab, Prakash Ambedkar Sahab. In West Bengal, okay, we went alone. In UP, I had said on record that we are ready for alliance, except with Congress and BJP. So it's not that we want to go alone, but we want to fight elections. Come what may, we will be fighting elections. I cannot wait for an alliance to fructify. That does not mean that we don't want, or we are not we are reluctant, but it's not the case. But as a political party, I have to fight elections. We have been working in last 3-4 years, as I told you in your earlier question. So I owe a duty to my party organization, to my party members, and to the people who have worked for us and who want to vote for us. So be it. Whatever happens, we'll be contesting elections. But at the same time, this allegation which is being thrown at me, because of you this happened, that happens, which is completely untrue. There's no empirical data to back up all these false allegations. But at least people will know that who wants to ally, who doesn't want to ally, because after the results come, this will be clear.
Would you do an alliance with SP?
No, I have said I will not have an alliance with Congress and BJP. Now, whether it happens with the party which you have just mentioned or with other parties, only time will tell. But the Samajwadi leader has publicly made a statement that they will not have an alliance with my party. So be it. I have no issues with that.
What do you make of Mamata Banerjee's attempts to do a Congress-less opposition alliance?
See, for me, this is what you call a popcorn moment for me. Because I am enjoying this whole thing. Congress calling Mamata B team, Mamata calling Congress BJP's strong point. So I'm enjoying this moment. I said, okay, good, because for a long period of time, this was thrown at me. I said, okay, I'll take some rest before it comes back to me. So it was it is great fun seeing all these things, and so Mamata going to Goa is not a problem. When I came to West Bengal, it was, why did you come? Who are you? You're Hyderabad based, and all these things were said. Now the TMC can go to Goa. Congress is using that same language which TMC had used. So it's all very amusing. But every political party has the right to expand their party, to contest elections. That is the beauty of democracy. And yes, why not? The more political parties, it is more better for the electorate. They have more choices, and they will vote according to their choice and what benefits them. So as of now, I don't know how much success will it lead for TMC. But we'll have to wait and see.
So some Muslim organizations are alleging that there's a concerted attempt in UP to delete Muslim names from electoral rolls. Has anything of this sort come to your notice?
See, this is this is a work which should be done through every year. We should not wake up just before elections and get shocked that our names are not there. So it is a responsibility of all political parties, all Muslim organizations in particular, to have a some sort of a group which checks the voter list, because the Election Commission gives you time at the end of November, December for inclusion of names, people who are going to turn 18 in the coming January. At the same time, you need to check your voter list, and nowadays it's available on the net. So this exercise, this hard work must be done by every organization. But unfortunately, we wake up after the final voter list comes. So maybe there are people who are deleting names by putting that form. I don't know what form it is. Form 7
or 8.
Form 7 or 8. Wherein you put a form and say, okay, this person has died or has shifted from there. But it is our responsibility also as voters, as part of members of organization or responsible people to look at this. So why blame our opponents who are hell-bent on deleting our names? But at the same time, I hope the Election Commission will not allow such attempts to disenfranchise people who are living in that area and who have a right to vote in the elections.
So you went to Bihar, you did well, West Bengal not so much. You're in UP now. What sort of a future do you see for your political party, and also in general? Is a political party that is that identifies itself only with a particular community, does it have a future, or what sort of a future does it have in India?
Well, I won't use the word identifying with a particular community. We are, throughout our political existence of last 70 odd years, we have worked for everyone. We have talked about issues pertaining to not only to Muslims but to every weaker section or where any injustice has happened. Yes, it is a fact that when we talk about the biggest minority of this country, they are socially, educationally, economically backward. And we are of the opinion that this is connected to the political disempowerment done by all these political parties in not allowing a Muslim leadership to come up or to help them come up. And that is what MIM has been working, that we require a political leadership. Take for example Uttar Pradesh. You have various castes in Uttar Pradesh, and I can name you innumerable number of castes and their political consciousness, which has led to a political leadership of that particular caste. The bigger example I can give you, maybe it's a very crude way of explaining, you have this union minister whose son uses his father's caste and kills 4 people. Why is that minister not being removed? Because he belongs to an upper caste and BJP needs that caste community vote. So BJP will keep him as a minister. But the BJP, if the same thing was done by another person, that criminal act, the BJP have in the past used bulldozers to demolish that person's house, arrest the whole family and incarcerated them and even bumped them off in some false encounter. This will tell you clearly that political leadership is very important for Muslims, because day in, day out, you see all empirical evidence coming out of backwardness. But the crass reality of Indian democracy is that if you have your leadership, if you have your voice, then those issues would be addressed, and over a period of time those injustices will come down, which we have shown in Telangana, in Maharashtra now, and it's going to happen in Bihar. So this is what we have been working for. But to say that exclusively only for Muslims, that is not the case of our party.
Last question, sir. When was the last time you met Prime Minister Modi or Home Minister Amit Shah, and what sort of interactions did you have?
No, I have not met Prime Minister Narendra Modi or Mr. Amit Shah as the Prime Minister or as the Home Minister. I have never met them. The only time I have seen the Prime Minister is when the Parliament starts. when you have all party meeting of all the political leaders.
This time I wasn't there.
This time I was in UP. After 2019, the Prime Minister had called an all-party meeting, asking for opinions, and that was a meeting attended by every political party which was represented in Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha was there. You had 3 chief ministers, I remember clearly. Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy, Mr. Nitish Kumar and Mr. Naveen Patnaik were there. From TRS, Mr. KT Ramarao represented them. At that time I was there in that meeting, but I have never met the Prime Minister in his office or in his residence, or the same with the Home Minister as well.
Right. Before we let you go, sir, anything you want to talk about?
No, I just hope that, I must thank you personally for doing great work. And I as an MP have learned a lot by reading your stories about whole vaccination. To be honest, as a politician, we don't know much, but when you hear and read, it really helps. I just hope that people who are watching this would get their vaccination done and be safe, so that the 45 plus adult population must focus on getting vaccinated, so that this new variant which is coming, hopefully, inshallah, this will not be as destructive as the second wave, hopefully. Because I don't think so with this country of ours can withstand. We don't have that health or financial wherewithal to withstand another third wave. I hope it just subsides, and that's the best way of getting is get vaccinated and keep ourselves safe.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching.